What's going on, guys? Ted from Immersion here, and I'm back with another Unearthed Arcana review. As a reminder, Unearthed Arcana has gone back to monthly, potentially bi-monthly releases. So we have this month, which we kind of already knew was going to be a revision to existing subclasses that we've seen. This is most likely an event to help streamline and get further playtest and feedback information for Xanathar's Guide to Everything coming out this November, which is going to have a ton of new subclass options for us to play. So, what do we get? It's an interesting mix. We get the Circle of the Shepherd, which was from the Unearthed Arcana Druid article. The Cavalier Fighter, which I honestly thought was completely just forgotten, because this wasn't from the Fighter more recent ones. This was from the old kits of old, where it had Bard kits and Fighter kits. Honestly, I think the only reason it exists is the heavy focus, it seems, in Tomb of Annihilation to be riding dinosaurs, and this is sort of a mount-based fighter. The Oath of Conquest Paladin, which, what I said in a recent video, and a little bit different now, is basically a paladin from the Unearthed Arcana Paladin release, which I thought was completely pointless, because they were all evil paladins, and I didn't really think they were worth your time, although now I did change my mind. And the Celestial Warlock, which used to be known as the Undying Light Warlock, which was, in my opinion, one of the strongest warlocks out there. It's changed quite a bit for the better, I think, but I also like the change to the name Celestial. The problem being, in the Sword Coast Adventure Guide, a book that was released before this Unearthed Arcana came out, there was the Undying Patron, and then they came out with another patron called the Undying Light. Undying in two of them, which was previously a kind of an oath to the positive energy plane. Now it's more of an oath to a celestial creature, which is something I've actually been calling for. If you go back and watch my old videos, why wouldn't we get, if we had a demon, a fiend and a fae based warlock and an outsider warlock with the kind of great old one, why not have a celestial, a good angelic being? And that's kind of the rectification, as well as altering the existing Eldritch invocations we got in the Warlock and Wizard article to basically make them accessible not just to the various directly tied to your patron that you would pick. It is now free and basically allows you to roleplay it that way if you so choose, which I think is a better call and opens it up to a lot of other people. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each class and kind of flip back and forth to tell you guys what the difference is between the old one and what I think of each one. So, Circle of the Shepard Druid is first on the list. And they kind of give you a little bit of the background here. So, what do you get? And I like these nice little kind of mini tables they're giving out now that shows all the features. So, Speech of the Woods. You learn to speak, read, and write Sylvan. In addition, beasts can understand your speech, and you gain the ability to decipher their noises and motions. Most beasts lack the intelligence to convey or understand sophisticated concepts, but a friendly beast could relay what it has seen or heard in the recent past. The ability does not grant you any special friendship with them, so you can combine this ability with gifts to curry favor with them as you would with any NPC. So, it was called, previously, Beast Speech. You did not learn Sylvan, now you do. You understand their speech and their ability to recognize has been seen in recent past. So basically that was the same, except they also give you Sylvan as a language, which is good. Then there's the Spirit Totem, which is similar, but there's a couple of tweaks. So basically you call forth a Nature Spirit as a bonus action. A magically incorporeal spirit appears within 60 feet of you. The spirit creates an aura in a 30-foot radius around it. As a bonus action, you can move the spirit up to 60 feet to a point you can see. It lasts for a minute and recharges on a short or long rest, and you choose one of 3 spirits. The Bear Spirit. Each creature of your choice in the area gains temporary hit points equal to 5 plus your druid level. In addition, you and your allies gain advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws while within the aura. Remember, you're going to stay in the aura for the temporary hit points. The Hawk Spirit. When a creature makes an attack roll against a target in the spirit's aura, you can use your reaction to grant advantage to that attack roll. That is a big change. We'll talk about that. And the Unicorn Spirit. You and your allies gain advantage on all ability checks made to detect creatures in the spirit's aura. In addition, if you cast a spell with a spell slot, that restores hit points to anyone inside or outside the aura. Each creature of your choice in the aura also regains hit points equal to your druid level. So, very powerful abilities. Let's see how it stacks up. We had Bear, Hawk, and Wolf. They have changed it. It is still a minute. It is still... they kind of had a medium spirit. They didn't do that anymore because it doesn't actually make sense because it's a spirit. It doesn't really matter. It is still within 60 feet, still a 30-foot radius. It was stationary, though, I believe. Now they give you the bonus action to move it up to 60 feet, which is a big bonus because this is a crux of your class. It does still last a minute. It does still recharge on a short or long rest. And it is still immobile. Does not occupy a space. So that's good. Bear Spirit, I think, remains basically the same. Hit points equal to 5 plus your druid level. 5 plus your druid level. Strength checks. Hawk was... You and your allies gain advantage on ranged attack rolls in the Spirit's aura. Now, when a creature makes an attack roll against a target in the Spirit's aura, you can use your reaction to give that creature advantage, which is significantly less potent than it used to be, which was just flat-out advantage. And then the Wolf Spirit used to be, you gain advantage on ability checks made to detect creatures in the aura. In addition, if you cast a spell with a spell slot that restores hit points, in the aura... also regains hit points. Each of your allies in the aura also regains hit points equal to your druid level. And this is each creature of your choice in the aura, so that's basically the same. New feature is Mighty Summoner. I think this is the same, they just tweaked it to make it look a little more transparent. Any beast or fae summoned or created by your spells, 2 extra HP per hit die it has, and its weapons are considered magical for overcoming non-magical attacks. Mighty Summoner, any beast summoned by your spells. Now it covers beasts and fae, which is nice because if you use Conjure Fae, it gives you a little bit of a bonus. 2 hit die, and it's magic. It is now, when a beast or fae that you summoned or created with a spell ends its turn in your Spirit Totem aura, that creature regains a number of hit points equal to half your druid level to keep your spirits a little bit, your summons a little bit stronger. Previously, it was you had Death Ward cast on yourself when you finish a long rest with a 24-hour duration. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, to be completely honest, but that was what it was. And then I think the level 14 ability remains the same. If you are reduced to 0 hit points or incapacitated against your will, which is nice. I don't know if it said that before, because that could mean like a sleep spell. It would trigger it. You can immediately gain the benefits of Conjure Animals as if it were cast from a 9th level spell slot. It summons 4 beasts of your choice that are challenge rating 2 or lower. The conjured beast appears within 20 feet of you. If they receive no commands, they protect you from harm and attack your foes. The spells last for 1 hour, requiring no concentration or until you dismiss it as no action. And this is once per long rest. And it was before... Okay, same thing. Conjure Animals. Yeah, so it is basically the same thing. Although here, it did not state that it did not require concentration. Here, it does, which is just a little clarification, which is nice. So that's the Druid. Fighter, Cavalier. At 3rd level, you get proficiency in one of the following: Animal Handling, History, Insight, Performance, Persuasion, or a language of your choice. Here you got 2 Animal Handling, Insight, Performance, or Persuasion, and you can choose 1 tool or skill, or one tool in place of that. Born in the Saddle, you have advantage on saving throws to avoid falling off your mount. If you fall off your mount and descend no more than 10 feet, you land on your feet and are incapacitated. If you're not incapacitated, and mounting or dismounting only costs 5 feet rather than half of your movement. I'll be honest, a lot of the DMs I play don't really deal with that, but if your DM's strict by the book, then that would be a thing you have to deal with. If you fall off your mount, you always land on your feet. You have advantage on saving throws to avoid falling. Mounting or dismounting uses only 5 feet. So that's the same. Superiority dice, you start with 4, they're d8s. And you regain all of them when you finish a short or long rest. And another at 7 and another at 15. You spend your superiority dice on maneuvers, and you know the following maneuvers. Control Mount, which is you make a Wisdom Animal Handling check to influence a creature that you're riding. You can expend a superiority die and add it to the number rolled. You can do so before or after rolling the d20, but before the results are applied. Precision, which is when you make a weapon attack, you can expend 1 to roll it and add it to the attack roll before you know the result. Trip attack is when you hit a creature. Remember, that's when you hit, so you can use it after the fact. You can expend 1 superiority die. Roll the die and add it to the attack's roll. If the creature is larger or smaller, it must succeed on a strength saving throw or be knocked prone. And then warding maneuver. If a creature within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack, you can spend 1 superiority die as a reaction if you're wielding a weapon or shield. Roll the die, then add the number rolled to the target's AC against that attack. If the attack still hits, the target has resistance against the attack's damage. What did we have before? They didn't actually have names for the maneuvers, they were just kind of bullets. But the same thing regarding the superiority die. When you make a check to influence or control your animal, you can spend a die. That one clarifies it a little bit further, saying an animal handling check and gives it a name. You can spend a superiority to add it to the attack roll. That's the same. You can add it to the damage and make the strength saving throw. You can expend 1 superior if you or your mount before, not you or a creature. Was it just a creature within 5 feet? If you were a creature within 5 feet, which would cover your mount, but it also covers allies as well. You could expend 1 superiority die as a reaction, adding the number rolled to your mount's AC. If the attack still hits you, you or your mount take half damage from it. So that kind of changes it to just give... roll the die and add the number rolled to the target's AC against that attack. If the attack still hits, the target has resistance. So it still gives it to the AC, and it gives them half damage no matter what, and now this makes it significantly better because it works on any ally within 5 feet. Ferocious Charger, you gain additional benefits when you use your trip attack. You can expend 2 superiority die, adding both to the damage, and when you do this, the target has disadvantage on the strength saving throw. Spend 2 superiority die, disadvantage, same. And then lastly, your superiority die, wow, I'm having a hard time saying that, go up to D10s at 10 and D12s at 18, and at 15 you get 1 when you roll initiative and don't have any, and that here is also the same. So next up is the Oath of Conquest. This one got a fairly significant overhaul in a lot of aspects, and I think it's way better than it was. Almost to the point where I could have potentially think about having fun playing one. It is a very still kind of evil-ish class. Subjugation and, you know, ruling and kind of, you know, again, conquest. So first off, the oath spells are different. Some are the same. We got Armor of Agathis, Command, Hold Person, Spiritual Weapon, Bestow Curse, Fear, Dominate Beast, Stone Skin, Cloud Kill, and Dominate Person. We still have Armor of Agathis and Command, Hold Person, Spiritual Weapon, Bestow Curse, and Fear, but we used to have Blight, Dominate Beast, Dominate Person, and Insect Plague. Insect Plague didn't really make any sense, neither did Blight, but now we have Dominate Beast and Dominate Person versus... well, we still have both of those. Stone Skin and Cloud Kill versus Blight and Insect Plague. I believe our level 3 abilities are the same. Conquering Presence. Use your Channel Divinity as an action to force a creature of your choice you can see within 30 feet to make a Wisdom saving throw. One creature. On a failed save, it becomes frightened of you for 1 minute. The frightened creature can repeat this save at the end of each of its turn, ending the success, or you basically get the War Cleric's Guided Strike ability. When you make an attack roll, you can use your Channel Divinity to give a plus 10 bonus to the roll. You can do this after you roll, but before the DM tells you whether you hit or miss, and that is for your Channel Divinity. I believe that is exactly the same. When you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack as part of the attack action, actually it was better before. You use your action to force a creature. Before, it was when you hit a creature with an attack, using the attack action, you can use your Channel Divinity to force them to make a Wisdom saving throw, and then that happened. So it was a function of the attack. It didn't make you waste an attack. And then the Guided Strike was the exact same thing. Conquering Strike better there. The reason they probably changed it, though, is your alteration to your level 7 ability. You project a menacing aura within 10 feet of you. If a creature is frightened of you, its speed is reduced to 0 while within the aura. So if you hit somebody... you don't really have any other means of frightening creatures other than the Fear spell at level 9. Which was that one of the ones you had before? Yes. So the Fear spell at level 9, and then maybe your Conquering Presence ability. If they're within 10 feet of you, their speed becomes 0, and that creature takes psychic damage equal to half your Paladin level, so 3 points at that point, if it starts its turn within that aura. Again, think about this. If they're frightened of you, their speed becomes 0, so they cannot move. So then there's a fairly high probability that they're going to start their turn within 10 feet of you, within your aura, and take half your Paladin level in damage. And again, as typical Paladin auras, at level 18, this aura goes out to 30 feet. Think about that. A 30-foot radius around your Paladin. Any creature that's afraid of you, which Fear is a cone, so keep that in mind, but any creature afraid of you now has 0 movement speed, and they take half your Paladin level. At 18, that's 9 points of psychic damage at the start of their turn. Psychic damage, highly unresisted, so you probably will hit for full damage against most things. Unfortunately, it looks like it has to be frightened of you for that function to work, which is unfortunate, because it would be nice to just deal flat-out damage. It used to be, when a creature is within 10 feet of you, it has disadvantage on saving throws against being frightened, which kind of synced with your Conquering Strike, but again, highly limited use. Now it has a lot more, disadvantage on saves against being frightened is good, but this gives you a lot more. Level 15 is Scornful Rebuke. I love this. When someone has the audacity to hit you with an attack, any attack, so that can be a ranged attack, and it could be a spell attack, so keep that in mind. They take psychic damage equal to your Charisma modifier. Chances are by level 15 it's going to be 5, if you're not incapacitated. That's a great ability. That's just that's retributive damage. You can never argue with that. Especially when you get up to level 15, the creatures are going to have more hits. So you may have at this point 20, 21 AC, maybe even a little bit higher with your plate mail and shield. So that'd be not a bad situation. But if they do hit, then they get paid. Then they pay for it. You get hit with a Shocking Grasp by that caster that's running away. They still take the psychic damage because that's a melee spell attack. That Warlock is pinging at you from way the hell far away with their Eldritch Blast. They're still taking damage because they just have to hit you. You don't have to see them. When they hit you with an attack roll, if you're not incapacitated, they take the damage. So even if a creature is hidden and shooting you from a distance, the fact that they have the audacity to attack you in the first place means they take damage. Pretty cool. And it was you were immune to charm. That was what it used to be. Way better. And lastly, your Paladin sort of transformation ability that all Paladins get at level 20. Use an action to get the following benefit for a minute. Resistance to all damage. When you take the attack action, you make an additional attack, so that's now 3 attacks on your turn. And you crit on a 19 or 20. Pretty solid. That's like almost being a fighter. Again, that's level 20, but still. And that's once per long rest. And it used to be resistance to all damage, an extra attack. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. Okay. Lastly, we have the Warlock of the Celestial. Again, this one is, some things are a little bit weaker. A lot of things are balanced out, I feel, for level. You got really powerful things really early on as this class, and now it's been tweaked. And you used to only have 1 extra spell on your expanded spell list. They've doubled that now, and also included healing spells. So if you really want to play a healing Warlock, this is really good. So, right now, your expanded spell list is Burning Hands, Cure Wounds, Flaming Sphere, Lesser Restoration, Daylight, Revivify, Guardian of Faith, Wall of Fire, Flame Strike, and Greater Restoration. You had previously... Did I grab the wrong one? I did. Oops. Let's go... Unearthed Arcana... Underdark. My mistake, folks. There we go. Burning Hands, Flaming Sphere, Daylight, Fire Shield, and Flame Strike. So you had all those, now you got all the secondary ones, which are all healing. Bonus cantrips. At first level, Sacred Flame and Light count as cantrips for you. They do not count against your Warlock number of cantrips. You also had that. And then also now at level 1, you have a pool of healing. The amount of d6s you have for healing equals 1 plus your Warlock level. As a bonus action, you can touch a creature and heal it, spending dice from the pool. The maximum number of dice you can spend is equal to your Charisma modifier. Roll the dice, add them together, and cure the hit points. And you get all of these dice back on a long rest. Previously, you got another ability in Radiant Soul, resistance to radiant damage. And whenever you cast a spell that does radiant or fire damage, you add your Charisma modifier to that damage. That has been moved, and the Healing Light ability used to be your level 14 ability, which used to be 15d6 flat, and you could heal 1d6 to 5d6. Now it's your Charisma modifier, so typically up to 5d6, but you get a number of d6s equal to 1 plus your Warlock level. So at 14, you'd have 15d6, but you will still get more as you continue to level, and they do still come back on a long rest. Then, at level 6, you get the Radiant Soul ability that we were talking about, resistance to radiant damage, and when you cast a spell that deals radiant or fire damage, add your Charisma modifier to that damage against one target of your choice. Previously, it used to be freaking broken because it was just add your Charisma modifier to that damage. That made spells like Burning Hands, anything. Fireball would do, 8d6 plus 5, presumably. Things of that nature. Fire Shield, which is, a constant on. People could hit you, they take fire damage plus your Charisma modifier. And what also made it crazy broken was the fact that you could dip into it for 1 level and get that ability. Get yourself resistance to radiant damage and Charisma modifier. Green Flame Blade would do a d8, or would do, at level 5 does a d8 plus your, whatever your attacking damage is to that creature, plus your Charisma modifier. So it'd be a d8, be a normal attack, whatever your weapon attack is. So let's say it's a longsword, a d8 plus your strength mod, plus a d8 fire damage, plus your Charisma mod, and then jumping to the second creature would be a d8 fire damage plus your Charisma modifier doubled, essentially. They've since nixed that to make it 1 creature of your choice. So 1 creature will get a little bit more damage. At level 10, you get Celestial Resistance. When you finish a short or long rest, you get some temporary hit points. For you, that's equal to your Warlock level plus your Charisma modifier. Additionally, you can choose up to 5 creatures you can see at the end of the rest, and they get half your Warlock level plus your Charisma modifier. You used to get that again, same thing at level 10. The function is exactly the same. And then now, your final ability is Searing Vengeance, which is an ability you got at level 6 previously. When you have to make a death saving throw at the start of your turn, you can instead spring back to your feet with a burst of radiant energy. When you regain hit points equal to half your hit point maximum, and then stand up if you so choose. Each creature of your choice within 30 feet of you takes radiant damage equal to 2d8 plus your Charisma modifier, and it's blinded until the end of your next turn. And this is usable once per long rest. And previously it was go down, make a death saving throw, you immediately stand up if you choose, regain hit points equal to half, and it just did 10 plus your Charisma modifier, and they're blinded. Now it's 2d8 instead of 10. So it's nice, it adds a little bit of the rolling functionality. And that is basically it for the classes. Now we'll talk about the Eldritch Invocations. Previously, these were tied specifically, some, not all, to your patron. Now they've kind of broken them out, although some are tied to a pact. So, Aspect of the Moon, you no longer need to sleep and can't be forced to sleep by any means. To gain the benefits of a long rest, you can spend all 8 hours doing light activities such as reading your Book of Shadows and keeping watch. That makes it a Pact of the Tome feature. Previously, it was an Archfey Patron feature, so now it is tied to the Pact of the Tome. Cloak of Flies requires level 5. As a bonus action, you surround yourself with a magical aura of buzzing flies. The aura includes your space and 5 feet around you in every direction, and is blocked by total cover. It lasts until you're incapacitated, or you dismiss it with a bonus action. The aura grants you advantage on all charisma intimidation checks, but disadvantage on every other type of charisma check. Any creature that starts its turn in the aura takes poison damage equal to your charisma modifier. Once you use this invocation, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. Again, I will remind you, it lasts until you're incapacitated or you dismiss it as a bonus action. So you can have it up, and if you choose to dismiss it for some reason, then you can get it back on a short or long rest. But any creature that starts its turn within 5 feet of you takes the damage. What was it called? Cloak of Beelzebub here. Used to be Fiend Patron, specifically bonus action, charisma, intimidation, and it didn't look like it had a recharge before either. In addition, a creature within 5 feet starts its turn, poison damage equal to your charisma modifier. Yeah, it didn't have a recharge before. You could just turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off as a bonus action. Still a bonus action to do so, but it recharges on a short or long rest. Eldritch Smite. This did not exist before, but this is a really cool ability for Pact of the Blade Warlocks. It's 5th level, and you can basically spend a Warlock spell slot to deal an extra 1d8 force damage to the target, plus an additional 1d8 per level of the spell slot. If the target takes any of this damage, you can knock the target prone if it is huge or smaller. This is huge! Because previously the only way to get anything similar to this smiting ability was to be a Hexblade, and that was your Cursebringer invocation, which was tied directly to that. Directly to being Pact of the Blade, but also being a Hexblade. This is free, so technically you can be a Hexblade with Cursebringer, and then also take Eldritch Smite to do a crazy amount of damage. My little gripe is Paladins, when they use their Divine Smite, it maxes out on 4th level spell slots. This will work with 5th level spell slots, doing a d8 force damage per target, plus 1d8 per level of the spell. So that could be a total of 68 force damage, which is arguably more or less resistant than radiant damage even, although if you're fighting angels, I guess that's the situation. However, Paladins do get the extra d8 radiant damage if they're hitting a fiend or undead, and an extra d8 constantly at level 11, so I guess it balances out. However, you get the free of a save if your target takes any damage from this feature. You can knock them prone if they're huge or smaller. No save. Just knock prone. So again, you could be a Hexblade with Cursebringer and Eldritch Smite. Cursebringer is 2d8 plus per spell slot. So you could essentially use 2 of your 5th level spell slots, which would be all of them at that point, to do your base weapon damage, plus 10d8 of whatever the weapon damage is, plus another 68 force damage on top of that, and if the creature is huge or smaller, you knock it prone. It's almost as good as being a Paladin, but you have, Paladins get a lot of other stuff, but this, I feel, really helps to make that Paladin Warlock multi-class really not a bad idea if you can swing it. Okay. This didn't exist before, so we don't have anything to compare to. Frostlands. When you hit a creature with your Eldritch Blast once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with your Eldritch Blast, you can reduce the creature's speed by 10 feet until the end of your next turn. The wording is a little funky. I'm going to read it again. Once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with your Eldritch Blast, you can reduce its speed by 10 feet. That, if I'm reading it correctly, means you can only do it once. So you couldn't hit one creature with 4 Eldritch Blasts and reduce its speed by 40, but it also looks like now you can't hit 4 separate creatures and reduce all of their speeds by 10. It's once on your turn. Previously, this was a Archfey specific invocation, and it was when you hit a creature with your Eldritch Blast cantrip 1 or more times on your turn, you can reduce that creature's speed by 10 feet. So that basically made it so that you could hit multiple creatures and reduce their speed by 10. Now it looks like it's just 1. Ghostly Gaze. I feel like this may be new. As an action, you gain the ability to see through solid objects to a range of 30 feet. Within that range, you have dark vision if you don't already. The special sight lasts until the end of the current turn. During that time, you perceive objects as ghostly transparent images, and you get this invocation back on a short or long rest. So it lets you kind of see through walls. Was that a thing we had before? Gaze of Cure, which is a great old one. As an action, you can see through solid objects to a range of 30 feet till the end of the current turn. During that time, you perceive objects as ghostly transparent images. This also previously did not have a recharge. You could just do this as an action as often as you wanted. Now it's a short or long rest, more realistic. Gift of the Depths, 5th level. You get a swimming speed equal to your walking speed and can breathe underwater. You can also cast water breathing without expending a spell slot, and then once you do that, you need to finish a long rest to get it back. That is definitely one. Sea Twin's Gift. It was Archface specific before, and it is exactly the same. Although it says using a Warlock spell slot, and here it is without expending a spell slot. So this is arguably way more powerful, because it's a freebie water breathing, and still gets you breathe underwater, and you still have a swim speed. But it does have the level requisite of level 5. It did not previously. Gift of the Ever-Loving Ones. This is now a Pact of the Chain feature, so this is tied to if you choose the Familiar Pact. As long as your familiar is within 100 feet of you, treat any dice roll to determine the hit points you regain as having rolled their maximum value. This was previously again, a lot of the cool ones that got tweaked were the Archfey ones. Let's see where that one was. Green Lord's Gift, just Archfey. When you regain hit points, you get the max. Now it's tied to your familiar being within 100 feet of you. Grasp of Hadar. Once on each of your turn, when you hit a creature with an Eldritch Blast, you can move it 10 feet towards you. Once during each of your turn when you hit a creature. So that is basically exactly the same, although it was previously tied to the Great Old One. Now it's just nothing. Improved Pack Weapon. This is basically the same, except now it specifically states that you can use the Pact of the Blade feature as a spellcasting focus for your Warlock spells. In addition, it counts as magic weapon with a +1 bonus to its attack and damage rolls unless there's already a magic weapon. Kiss of Mephistopheles is a really cool ability, especially now that it's a free thing. When you hit a creature with your Eldritch Blast, you can cast Fireball as a bonus action using a Warlock spell slot. The spell must be centered on the creature you hit with Eldritch Blast. It does use a Warlock spell slot, however, it gets any Warlock access to at least one Fireball as long as you have the spell slot. However, I believe before it was much more powerful. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, no, it's the same. When you hit a creature with a cantrip, you can cast Fireball as a bonus action using a Warlock spell slot. I thought maybe you got it for free. So it's exactly the same. It's just no longer tied to being a Fiend Pack. Maddening Hex. This is a really cool ability. This is basically new, but now it's a lot more broad stroke. There were a couple of Hex-based abilities that were tied to the Hexblade's Curse ability that would either let you do extra damage equal to your Charisma modifier to the target or to targets within 5 feet of it. Now, when a creature is targeted by your Hex spell, by a Warlock feature of yours such as Hexblade's Curse or Sign of Ill Omen. Sign of Ill Omen is a Warlock invocation that's in the player's handbook that lets you cast Bestow Curse. You can choose, when you do so, as a bonus action, you deal psychic damage to the target and each creature of your choice within 5 feet. The psychic damage equals your Charisma modifier. I like this because it has a benefit for all Warlocks, and it's kind of an always-on thing. Chances are, if you're a Warlock, more often than not, you're going to have the Hex ability. You're going to cast Hex on a creature, and then if you've got it up and you don't have use for your bonus action, you can just deal some psychic damage and a little bit of an AoE. but I like it. This also makes me feel like the Hexblade is going to be one of the published classes because they specifically made it the Hexblade's curse ability, so it gets a little, gets reused here. Relentless Hex was a Hexblade curse ability before. Now it's different. As a bonus action, you magically teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see within 5 feet of the target cursed by your Hex spell or by a Warlock feature of yours, such as Hexblade's Curse or Sign of Ill Omen. To teleport in this way, you must be able to see the cursed target. Previously, it was only for the Hexblade, and everything else was the same, but it was prerequisite of 5th level. Now it is 7th level. Shroud of Shadow. You can cast invisibility at will without expending a spell slot. That is a pretty powerful ability. This was it here, I think. Shroud of Ulban, I believe, was what it was. As an action, you turn invisible for 1 minute. If you attack, deal damage, or force a creature to make a saving throw, you become visible at the end of the current turn. Now, it is just an always-on at-will invisibility, which is pretty sweet. I don't know how that compares to the in the dark, if you're in an area of darkness, you can turn invisible, which is, I think, one of the base invocations from the Player's Handbook. Tomb of Levistus. I super love this one. I'm pumped because my Hexblade can get this now, and it fits him very well. As a reaction, when you take damage, you can entomb yourself in ice, which melts away at the end of your next turn. You gain 10 temporary hit points per Warlock level, which take as much of the triggering damage as possible. You gain vulnerability to fire, so you gotta be careful about when you use it. Your speed is reduced to 0, and you are incapacitated, so you can't take actions or reactions when you do this. These effects all end when the ice melts. Once you use this invocation, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. But I really like the idea of like, oh shit, something big is coming, especially if it's not fire damage, and you can just be like, frozen in ice. The higher level you are, I mean, this could be potentially 200 temporary hit points at level 20 that you just get. So that means someone's got to do 100 fire damage to you to burn this away. Otherwise, you're incapacitated. And previously, this was a Fiend Patron. Reaction, 10 temporary hit points. Vulnerability to fire, speed drops to 0 and you're incapacitated, and it's other than that it's the same, it's just now it's not tied to a patron. And lastly, I believe this is a brand new one called Trickster's Escape. Prerequisite is 7th level. You can cast Freedom of Movement once on yourself without spending a spell slot. And to do this again, you must finish a long rest. And I don't believe there was one that did that. Nope. Yeah. And that is it, guys. So, let me know what you think. Sorry that was a little bit long-winded. It was 38 minutes. Holy crap. Yeah, there's a lot to go over, though, and a lot to compare to the previous ones. I super love this update. I feel like Cavalier we probably could have left in the dust, but like I said, given the fact that Tomb of Annihilation seems to have a heavy focus on mounts and riding on dinosaurs, that's probably why it came back. I love the updates to the Celestial Warlock. I think that's huge. I hope that's one of the ones that gets published in Xanathar's Guide, because a healing Warlock is a really cool ability, especially because things like their Cure Wounds down the road will be a 5d8 Cure Wounds plus their Charisma modifier, because they're Warlock spell slots, and they'll recharge on a short rest, which is pretty neat. And the new invocations I think are solid as well. Like I said, I think that Hexblade's Curse appears in a couple of those invocations. Makes me very hopeful that Hexblade will be one of the published subclasses later on. I also feel like I remember reading a thing from Mike Merles in his AMA where he thought Hexblade was one of the best, most well-designed classes. I would agree. I think level 6 ability could use a little bit of a boost, but I love it, and Hexblade's one of my favorite classes of old. So, I don't know. I'm just excited. It doesn't tell us anything about when we're going to get to see the next Unearthed Arcana. At the very least, we'll see one on probably July 3rd, so that's right before the holiday, unless they come up with something else. Again, if they're crunching to try to get playtest stuff in before Xanathar's Guide to Everything in November, we may get to see some more than once a month. So, anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this long-winded video, and I'll see you next time.